From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, Dr. Jason here, Dental Lighthouse Podcast, and I'm going to take you behind the curtain, behind the scenes today. I'm going to share a coaching call that I did for an unbelievable guy, just huge servant heart, and just trying to figure it out, right? Trying to grow his practice in the best way possible. And in this episode, we really unpack two things. One is, what do we do when we promote someone to a leadership position, but perhaps we don't manage the expectations of that position fully, or perhaps that person ultimately gets into that position and then they come to the realization that this is not what I wanted. So how to rewind the tape on that, how to unpack that. And then secondly, we unpack strategies, mindset, metrics, to deal with an underproducing associate. So really good information packed into a half-hour coaching call with one of our clients. I hope he found a lot of value in the call. I think he did. And I hope you find some value in it as well. Talk to you soon. Love you. Cool. What's on your mind, brother?
I have three things. I wrote them down so that way I can use time efficiently here.
What an efficient thing to do. I appreciate that.
Thank you. The biggest thing on my mind right now, kind of a recent issue, and I'm sure it's happening everywhere, is a dental hygiene issue.
Yep.
So our hygiene department, we have 3.5 hygienists. We have 3 full-time doctors, and then 3.5 hygienists, and then one temp that works 1 day a week.
Okay.
So this specific hygienist has been with me roughly about a year now. I kind of deem her the lead in a sense, just mainly experience. And this, so about maybe like 6 months after we started, I kind of sat down with her, talked to her, here's my vision, here's a lead role in terms of like, here's the other responsibilities. And I give her a light bump increase in pay, went from 70 to 72. So that's where she got. A few months after that, there was an issue between the hygiene department, specifically her, and our DA department, specifically with 2 people over in the dental assistant team. Long story short, they had personal issues, went back and forth a few times, sat them down, had a meeting. And overall, I think it's kind of sorted out okay. However, after that, so this has been maybe 6 weeks ago, the mindset or the mental state of this hygienist has changed significantly.
Okay.
So pretty much when I had a small one-on-one with her, she basically told me that, she does not share the same vision or mission as the office. It is, she, in her word, like, that's your vision and mission, it's not mine. I'm here just to work. So she's outright saying that. And then the second thing is that, recently, last week, a couple, I think she was just talking with other team members, but she told them that she view herself as a long-term temp, really. So we kind of went from, potential, like a lead, to this mentally checked out person who just wanted to be kind of like a temp. So here are some things. So clinically or technically, their skill set is, I say solid. I give them a B+. So how do I navigate that situation? Especially, hygiene is scarce. At one point she said that, I know I'm replaceable, but it's easy for me to go wherever kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like she can perform to a point, solid in terms of technical skill, but just the culture, the mindset is not there in terms of say, hey, I'm checked out, I'm a long-term temp. That's really is her state. So I'm not sure how to navigate that, how to approach and how to address that. Is it worth investing in her more, or just kind of let it be and let her become a long-term temp? Um, at what point do I say, hey, you're not really sharing the mission or my vision, so then I should let you go. But then at the same time, I do have a long-term temp that's been with me for 3 years who've been helping me one day a week, every single Friday for 3 years now. But I pay her as like a temp, like a contractor, instead of a W-2. So that's problem one.
Yeah, let's unpack that. First off, I appreciate the context. I feel like I have a good grasp on exactly what you're dealing with. Um, I think it may have been a failure on your part, again, without knowing the entire situation, of awarding or promoting someone into a hygiene lead position simply because they were your most experienced. Now, we don't have to go into all the details about, the conversations that you had when you were considering putting her into the lead position. It just sounds like the reality is she's not leadership material, either because she doesn't want to be, or to what she admitted to you, she's not fully on board with the direction you're taking the office. And to be honest with you, from my perspective, it's kind of freeing when someone comes to you and is honest with you and says that. It's a lot harder to unpack this if she were in the lead position for a year or 2 years and really not doing what you needed her to do on a regular basis to be in that lead position. What those responsibilities are is a whole nother conversation that we can certainly have. But just from my perspective, the fact that she comes to you and says, this is not for me. Either I don't want to be a lead, I don't want the responsibilities that come with leadership, or I just feel like imposter syndrome where I'm in this lead position yet I don't fully agree with the vision of the practice. So I think it's a blessing that she's come to you. In my opinion, all practices, especially the larger ones like yours, need um, what I call A players and B players. And it just sounds to me like she's basically saying, I want to be a B player. And, my rough definition of B players are they show up for work on time, they do their job, they're not, a negative impact on the culture, and then they go home. They don't rock the boat or anything like that. So unless I'm missing something, if she can fall into that B player category, and you don't necessarily have to micromanage her or motivate her or continually have conversations with her that she might be gossiping or late for work or stuff like that, then I would go to her and I would be grateful. And I would say, I've been really reflecting on this. And I'm very appreciative that you came to me and that communicated honestly with me. The reality is you're a great clinician. Patients love you. And I would love to have you here long term. But I do realize that you here in a leadership position was just not a good fit for you. So that's kind of how I would personally handle that situation. What what about what I just said doesn't land well for you?
No, I mean, actually, everything landed pretty well in a sense. Like, it nudges me in the direction, like like you said, every office needs A and B players, team players, and she is exactly that in terms. She kind of admitted, like, hey, I'm not the leader. I don't share the vision. I just want to show up, go to work, and do my job, and kind of that's it. So in that sense, yeah, I do agree that I will, like, I categorize her at this B player, like you just mentioned.
Cool.
Um, I was just struggling with, because my original mindset was that if if they are not along for the ride in terms of our mission and vision, then should I keep them around? But they are technically sound. They do their job. She's not late. She is very reliable in that sense. It's just that mindset she can rock the boat a little bit in terms of the culture, because all the other hygienists kind of looked up to her. That's why in the beginning I made her that position, because our entire hygiene team is brand spanking new. Every single one of them is under a year in terms of experience with our office. So she was kind of like the first, and then the other three came within months later after her.
Yeah.
So we're a very young hygiene team, extremely young hygiene team in terms of within her. Now she has 20 plus years of experience, however.
Yeah.
Um, so if I'm understanding correctly, from what you're saying, is that it's okay to keep her around. She is technically sound. She does her job. She's producing. She, doesn't have any major issues like tardiness and stuff like that. Hopefully, we can work on a way where she doesn't cause any rocking of the boat per se. But other than that, we keep her. Now, one thing that because I have that conversation sitting down, like, hey, we signed a little accountability agreement about being the lead. Here's a $2 pay bump. How do I manage that? Do I just leave it as is in terms of pay and stuff like that? There are some responsibilities that, were attached to that little one-page thing. Like, we have these regular meetings, and, you'll be the advocate, blah, 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 blah. How do I navigate that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And in my own coaching group, this question has come up a little bit over the last couple weeks. It's really hard to walk back from
Yeah.
a pay increase if you were not crystal clear from the beginning about the situation. So I don't know if you were or not, but traditionally, when we're going to promote from within, very similar to what you described, we have a new offer letter to the person with all their responsibilities. And then the last paragraph, and I can send you this for future reference, but the last paragraph typically says something along the lines of, we know that you're going to flourish in this situation. But if after our onboarding or after our 90 days, either you come to the realization that this is not the position for you, or we come to the realization that, you don't have the skill set or the capacity to take on this new position, we still want you to be on the team. So we will put you into the previous role that you were at the previous compensation that you were at. So when you have that language in place, it's a very, very easy conversation. If you didn't have that conversation proactively, it's a little bit harder to walk back from that. I would still have that conversation with her, but perhaps because we're only talking about $2 an hour, perhaps I would meet in the middle somewhere with the caveat of, and again, I don't know exactly how she would receive this, but for me, if it were me having this conversation, I would be like, okay, look, like I, I so appreciate you not wanting to be in the lead position. I just need you to understand that one of the reasons I thought you were going to be, I thought you could be a great hygiene team lead is your vast experience, your knowledge, your clinical expertise. And as you know, we have so many young hygienists on this team, and your expertise, your impact, your influence on them cannot be understated. So even though you're not going to be in a lead position, could you take on the role of being a mentor when some of these younger hygienists come to you and ask you clinical questions, or ask you how to handle a difficult patient, or ask you, what should I do in this situation? And if you're open to that and you agree to that, then we can either keep your compensation the same, or instead of reducing it to the $2 an hour that you were at, I'll only reduce it to one. I would have some type of conversation like that and see how it's received.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. But no, I do not have that clause in there. I think that's amazing. I mean, I've never thought of that. So yes, if you have some template of that, that'll be lovely if you could share that in that way.
Yeah,
Future,
I'll send it to you.
in the
Yeah.
future,
Yeah.
I
This
can
is one of
use that for
those,
other stuff.
this is one of those situations where we either win or we learn, and right now we're learning, so which is a blessing. So when I send you the notes of this call, I'll definitely link in a sample offer letter that we give to current employees that we're promoting into another position.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, awesome. That was very helpful, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, brother. What else? What's next on the list?
All right, next on the list. So two and three is kind of related, I think. So I'll lay it out here. So number two are my low producing associates.
Hmm.
I have one full-time associate with me, one full-time who's working 4 days a week. He's been with me maybe almost 3 years now. Uh, and then I have two new part-time associates. Each are 2 days a week. So that them two are equal kind of one full-time. And then there's me. So there's three full-time there. So those two part-time associates, they're new. They've been with me since this past October, November. So about 7 months now. In terms of their experience, they're about just about a year out of school. So fresh. One guy is a higher performer. Now he's kind of out of the question now because he just approached me 2 weeks ago and said he's relocating with his wife to another state. So he gave me a 3 month notice. Like pretty much he's leaving in September.
Okay.
So that won't be an issue anymore. The second part-time associate, she is the lowest producer. I gave her a daily allowance of 850 for the first 3 months, and then after that, we transitioned to a 30% of adjusted production or collection. So far, she only had 1 month that she actually passed the daily guarantee, where her commission was more than that. So, in general, her average uh, hourly production right here is below $300. Let me see here. So she's in the mid 200 260 something, dollar an hour in terms of production.
Okay.
So in my opinion, is quite low. So she lacks kind of from what I've seen and from what I've heard, and also my one-on-one with her on a weekly basis, that she says, she gets flustered, she lacks communication confidence. She seems all over the place. So she lacks confidence and clarity when she speaks to a patient. Um, so I'm trying to figure out is how long do I keep her around? How long, we sat down and laid out a 3 month plan, kind of set goals in terms of case acceptance, set goals in terms of hourly, set goals in terms of, you should have X amount of diagnosis, based on the number of patients that you see, the number of exams that you see, is quite low. Um, yeah. So how long should I invest in this associate before I let her go? Because my problem in the past, and I've had the issue, was I kept on the associate way too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to make the same mistake.
Yeah. Super good question. And again, I'm very appreciative of the context you're giving me, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of things the right way in terms of preparing her or trying to support her. So let's just make sure that we're on the same page. As you've probably heard from, when I lecture or podcasts that I've done, I really believe that associate productivity comes down to two buckets that the owner is responsible for and buckets that the associate's responsible for. So you're responsible for giving this associate a number of patients. How many patients, it really depends. But on average, I want my younger associates to average around 30 to 40 new patients a month. Now, you can also combine that with periodic exams and stuff like that. But I need them to have a certain amount of exams, or what I like to call at bats, on a given month. So that's your responsibility. That's not her responsibility. The other responsibilities that you have is to make sure that you're giving her great treatment rooms to work out of and competent assistance. Those are basically your responsibilities. Her responsibilities are to make sure that she has a good skill set, that she's has a clinical skill set that meets your standard of care, that makes sure that she's continually expanding her skill set, that she's not just doing fillings. Like that's all she can do is filling. She can't do endo. She can't take out a tooth. She can't take out or she can't place an implant, And again, don't get me wrong. Like there's certain things that certain doctors don't want to do. But if I have an associate that can only do fillings or that can only do single crowns, then they're not going to be as productive as they could or should be. And then the final thing is their ability to get the patients to say yes. Now, with the limited context you gave me, it sounds like this could be the one limiting factor for her. Now, this is a her issue. It's not a you issue, but you can coach her up based on your experience and your wisdom. So, of those things that we just outlined, do you feel like her ability to get the patient to say yes is the limiting factor here?
Yes, 100%. I think is the diagnosis and that case acceptance is uh, especially diagnosis. So when I track on a monthly month basis, she has the lowest diagnosis, and yet sometimes she has the most exams.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so it's for sure, yes, her skill set is decent. I told her like do anything you want to do, and I'll be there to help you. And I've many times, I let her do 4 wisdom teeth, whatever it is she's doing. So I always come in and like I'll help if she can't, do this and do that. So I try to expand her skill set there, and I think she's decent at it. She does. The other thing is due to the lack of diagnosis. When I track her restorative, she has same thing the lowest units of pros like crowns and bridge and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Given the same amount of exams and as everybody else, it's just the lowest, always the lowest.
Perfect. Perfect. So I
So
think
I think so. Yeah.
I, I think I love the fact that you have data to support your argument. So, um, I shouldn't say argument, but I love that you have data to support the conversation and the growth that you're trying to instill in her. So, as far as the term that you're using, diagnosis, I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that, but I will tell you that in my world, in the people that I coach and in my own associates, I want them diagnosing 3 times what their goal is. So if you're expecting this associate to do, let's say, $3,000 a day, then they need to be treatment planning $9,000 a day. And I often find that doctors have no clue as to what they're actually treatment planning or how much they're treatment planning. And then they get frustrated when their schedule's open or they're not as productive as they need to be. So I would make sure what I would encourage you to do, and you're probably already doing this, is create a scorecard that's specific to her. So when you're having these weekly conversations, you have data to support what you're trying to say. And on this weekly scorecard, the first thing that I would be laying out is, okay, what's our goal? And the goal can continue to increase over time. But if we had to time harness this and we had to say, okay, what does success look like? So by September 1st, and I'm just throwing out dates and numbers, and you ultimately do whatever you want to do. But if it were me having this conversation, I would want to say something like, okay, by September 1st, I want you to be at $3,000 per day in adjusted production. And can we agree that if you got to that point, that we would be trending in the right direction? And I'm assuming that she would say yes, and I'm assuming that you would agree with that. Okay, perfect. So if that's our goal by September 1st, then we need to start trending in a direction where we're going to treatment plan $9,000 a day in dentistry. That may sound like a big number, but if your case acceptance is 33%, and it sounds like it might even be lower than that, if your case acceptance is 30%, you have to at least treatment plan $9,000 per day in order to hit that $3,000 per day in adjusted production. Now, there's going to be days where you treatment plan 7,000, and there's going to be days where you treatment plan 15,000. But on average, we want to see roughly $9,000 a day. So I would be putting that on a scorecard, and then I would also be putting case acceptance on a scorecard. If we're going to treatment plan $9,000 per day, we want our case acceptance goal. And my definition of case acceptance is dollars presented versus dollars accepted or dollars scheduled to be about 30% or a third of that. And then it's your job to make sure that you're coaching her up in an effort to get patients to say yes. And I have found that the best way to do that is to record her case presentations, record her hygiene exams, record her new patient exams. And by record, I personally, especially if you have operatories where the patient's face is facing away from the hallway, I like to put an iPhone right on the rear cabinet, hit the video button so you're recording video and audio. Patient doesn't have to know because their face is not facing the camera. You know, these hygiene exams typically take 5 minutes. These new patient exams or consults may take 10 to 15 minutes. And then during your weekly one-on-ones, I would watch two or three of these videos with her and just give her some constructive feedback. You know, perhaps, and if it's anything like my associates, they really struggle to maintain eye contact, or they talk in circles regarding what their treatment recommendations are, or they present way too many options and the patient leaves confused, or they lack confidence in presenting a treatment option. You know, if you were the patient, you need confidence out of your dentist. And if they're like, well, I think we could probably do this root canal and it should work out okay. Like, that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear, this is what we need to do to save this tooth. I'm confident that I'll be able to do this for you. Let's get you scheduled within the next week. Right. So you need to watch those videos with her and coach her up on what she's doing or not doing in order to get the patient to say yes. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, to answer some of your uh, um, things that you mentioned, yeah. So her acceptance dollar treatment acceptance rate is for the past 5 months, January through now, is 16.44%.
Horrible.
So yeah.
That,
So our goal, I mean, I set the goal as 25%. So I told her we need to diagnose. That's the term I use. Treatment plan 4 times that.
right.
4 times what our so that has always been what we spoke about in terms of 4x what your goal. So yeah,
Perfect.
hers is 16.44% January through May. Um, so yeah, I guess yeah. So I don't record. I did request the associate to record and send me the videos, but I get like nothing out of them. So I guess I'll physically go myself and put up a set of a phone or something.
Well,
So that's I
there's
can.
a couple things there, right? So the associate has to want it, right? They have to be motivated enough to get better. So I don't have any problem with you asking the associate to do it. Um, but I would, in asking them to do it, I would make sure that I'm explaining the why. Okay, so here's the
Mhm.
why. You're underproducing. Like, you're not even making your minimum. And we've looked at the data. I've given you treatment rooms to work out of. I've given you assistants to work out of. You do the most exams of anyone in the office. So the issue that we're running into is what you're treatment planning and getting the patient to say yes. So in order for me to help you with that, I need you to record your presentations, and then I will work with you to make sure that we get those percentages and those numbers higher. Now, if you lay it out that way, that you're truly trying to serve and mentor them and they still refuse to do it, then the problem's already solved. Like, this is not a long-term fit. If they want to take some equity in this problem and they're excited about recording the videos because they're excited about getting your wisdom and sitting down with you, now you at least have someone that you can work with. And I would be a little bit more lenient in how long I'm going to hang on to a person like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I have done those sit down with her, laid out some stuff, but I can even be more clear with for example, I did not set a due date, so that wasn't clear. I do have a scorecard that we review weekly, so that's good. So I think the next time we sit down, we'll kind of update our kind of goals, but with a clear due date, with some more clarity and expectation. And then I'm going to mention about the recording again to see if we can get more to record to help coach her with that.
And let her set some of these goals, right? So what you said she's doing, I forget the number, $250 an hour, right? So on
Mhm.
in an 8 hour day, that's $2,000 a day. I would say, you're at $2,000 a day. You're not meeting your minimum. I think, you're probably a little frustrated. I'm a little frustrated. Like, I want to be able to help you. What do you think is a reasonable goal for us to get to within 3 months? And if she says, 3,000, 4,000, whatever she says, like, you'll have to kind of go back and forth. I would hope that she says something like 3,000. If I'm having this conversation and she says 3,000, I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Like, that's what I was thinking. Now, your case acceptance is pretty low. It's the lowest in the office. No judgment. Maybe it's a failure on my part for not coaching you up. I want to get that up. The rest of the doctors are in between 25 and 30%. Can we shoot for a goal to get you to 25% by this, deadline of September 1st or October 1st? If she says no to that, then again, she's revealing that she doesn't really care. She's revealing that she's not going to be a long-term fit. She'll most likely agree. So to that, I'm like, okay, great. We know that we're going to try to get to $3,000 a day. We know that we're going to try to get to 25% case acceptance. So based on these numbers, the diagnosis number per day on average needs to be X, or you can even do it by the week. It needs to be X per week, and I'm going to help you get there. I need you to give me audio, video, things that I can use to help you on a weekly basis. And that's how I would start to have the conversation. And I think it'll become really clear. She'll either want to get better or she'll kind of shut down and she'll start to self-select out. Either way, you win. So
I see. Yeah, no, that's great. Awesome. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.